Students in poorer communities are given unequal opportunities to learn. According to Jill Barchet in an article in the Hetchinger Report, the gap between rich and poor schools grew 44% over a decade. Barchet also states that the richest 25% of school districts receive 15.6% more funds from state and local governments per student than the poorest 25% of school districts. That's a national funding gap of $1,500 per student. So, why does this gap matter so much? According to Wikipedia, on the list of Virginia locations per capita income, the state average per capita income in Virginia is $32,145. Of all the counties in the state, 91% are below that average and only 9% are above it. Here, we see how Virginia distributes its education funding to its counties, specifically to those that are above and those that are below the state average per capita income. Here we see the comparison of the lottery funds that are going to schools in counties above and also below the average per capita income. According to the Virginia Department of Education's lottery payment spreadsheet, in 2017, the total amount of lottery money given to schools was $625,451,899. 75% of that went to schools in the counties below the average per capita income, and only 25% went to schools in the counties above the average per capita income. This is a visual representation of the distribution of the amount of lottery funds per student in accordance with their county for 2017. How do lotteries benefit public school funding, or do they even benefit public school funding? In the article, Mega Millions, Do Lotteries Really Benefit Public Schools?, Valerie Strauss wrote that, basically, schools don't benefit from lottery funds at all. How could this be? Strauss points out that instead of using the money as additional funding, legislators used the lottery money to pay for the education budget and spent the money that would have been used had there been no lottery cash on other things. So really, public school budgets haven't gotten a boost from the lottery funding. Strauss concluded that if the money was used in the way it was promised it would be, lottery funding would be highly beneficial to low-income community schools. How exactly does this disparity in funding happen? Why is it so unequal between schools in poorer communities versus schools in richer communities? It's because of the way funding is divided up between federal, state, and local governments. Statistics from Claire McCann's article, School Finance, showed that the federal government provides only 13% of funding to schools, while the state governments provide 44% of funding to schools, and the local governments provide 43% of funding to schools. The reason these percentages are so detrimental towards poorer communities is because of property tax. McCann also explains that poorer communities have fewer resources to draw from than richer communities, meaning they have less property tax, but may have higher tax rates, which still raises less funding to support their local governments because of the fact that they have fewer resources than richer communities. It is important to see where the money is coming from in order to understand how to fix this gap in funding. In this case, it could be by raising federal or state funding and decreasing the local funding to create more equitable funding. Low-budget schools have students who perform under their grade levels, barely graduate, and are more likely to become criminals. Does this make you mad? Because it absolutely should. According to Celia Baker and Mercedes White in their article Pathway from Poverty, nationally, for every 100 students of low-income status, 65 will receive high school diplomas, 45 will enroll in college, and only 11 will complete post-secondary degrees. According to the article, College Enrollment Surges Among Low-Income Students, written by Preston Cooper, in a low-income group, 19% of high school graduates are not employed nor enrolled in college, compared to only 6% of high-income high school graduates. Some solutions to close this gap in education funding could be starting to fund schools based on the needs of students, not the number of students, test scores, or graduation rates. PTAs at affluent and low-income schools can voluntarily become sister institutions, sharing knowledge and resources. The federal government could create levels of charitable status for school-based PTAs, awarding double deductions for gifts to poor schools with no benefit to those who give to affluent schools. Or go on strike if you're an educator, but demand the money not be redistributed from the kids to you. Here are just a few ways that you can personally help here at JMU.